Okay. All right. All righty. Am I live yet? I might be live. I think I'm live. Okay. There we go. Cool. Let's get this rolling here. Okay. There we go. All right. All right, cool. Let's do this. Hoping to get some good conversations today. Don't have a whole lot of time, but I got a little bit of time. Let's see. Send some invites here. Still haven't figured out the mod thing, but that's okay. That's okay. It doesn't matter. It does not matter. Okay. And so I apologize for those who have watched in the past. I was neglecting my YouTube comments, but fear not. That will not happen this time. That will not happen. Okay. Good stuff. Good stuff. Okay. Oh. There we go. Let me know if you guys can hear me too. There we go. Okay. What's up, Billy? I see you there on YouTube. Thanks for joining, man. All right. Looking to get some guests here in the TikTok. I'm eventually going to figure out what I'm supposed to do here to get the YouTube guests in. I've seen a couple different paths. You got to have like a link for them to join or something like that, or even a phone number for them to call in. As of now, I haven't figured that out yet. Yes, sir. I feel the love, Billy. I feel the love. But for now, the guests will be TikTok guests, but that's okay. Nothing wrong with that. Appreciate the love, though. All right. What's up, TikTok folk? See a few people rolling in here. See if we can get any guest requests. I've finally gotten completely around like the LPT, the logical problem of the Trinity, and like why the monarchical explanation works. Bo Branson's paper is quite true based off Gregory of Nyssa. And Nathan Jacobs, I have to thank a whole lot for his explanation. But that would be fun. What's up, Theologos? Thank you for joining. It's interesting because I've had a lot of people comment on my YouTube lives that stay recorded on the channel that I need to go debate higher tier atheists. It's like really rude to people. Oh, we got a live request here. Oh, well, it was on here. I did have a request. Angry. Where are you, buddy? If I could just get this to work. Here we go. All right. How you doing? Welcome back.
I'm doing great.
Excellent. Thanks for joining. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, I'm getting like warnings about my sound. I don't know what that is. Anyways, how have you been? How are things?
Okay, how about you?
Fantastic. Fantastic, man. So welcome back. I forget where we left off last
We were
time.
talking about evolution. You said that you spoke to Gottlieb Gibbon already. I don't know what else I can.
You said I
Remember,
said what?
you had spoken to Gutsick Gibbon.
Oh yeah, yeah. I one day will stop being lazy and post that live. It kind of, she didn't really talk much. It was more Forrest in that live. But yeah, uh, that was she's not much of a philosophy person, so that I get it. Neither is Forrest, but he still, you know, participated. So what did you want to talk about today?
I know you said that you're a young Earth creationist.
Mm-hmm.
We were talking about the law of radioactive decay the last time.
Yep.
I don't remember exactly where we left off, though.
Oh yeah. Okay. So you put the camera on your paper, on your notepad, and you were drawing basically calculus or some form of math equation. I thought it was calculus.
Oh, yeah, it was A e to the power negative kt. That is the equation for the law of radioactive decay.
Right. Right. And so my whole point to that was I don't doubt the rate at which parent element decays to become daughter element. My only
Okay.
skepticism would be that beginning point of said parent element. We don't know. We have to assume, unless we have like a time machine or something like that. So that's where the real
We
skepticism comes in.
so basically, what we need to do is just um, I don't know if you remember how to solve for equations. Like even you have two linear equations, you can equal them to each other, and you can basically solve for one variable, and then for one variable you can solve for the other. That's kind of what you do with a e to the power negative kt. Or
So
because we have k, we have t,
so what is
and we have
k?
e. K is the rate of change.
K is the rate of change. What is e?
E is Euler's number. It's
E is what?
2.71. It's like an infinite number. It's
Okay,
an
like pi.
infinite number. It's called Euler's number.
Okay, gotcha. So what? So I guess I'm trying to see how we're getting the original, like the starting point of the parent element.
Okay, so it would just, since we have K, we have T, and we just need to solve for A, we can basically have 2 points because it's just a specific line that looks kind of like a slide. I don't know if you know what the formula looks like, but it looks like a slide. It
I,
doesn't touch. Okay,
how is this getting us to the like? So let's say we're gonna make this like a very simple analogy here, and maybe you can help me. So let's say I find a rock or a uranium lead rock, okay, and at this point 60%, I know it's not the entire rock that's going to be made of uranium lead, but for simplicity's sake, to maybe help me understand this, let's say 60% of the rock is uranium while 40% is lead, right? So we know that it's decayed into lead at this point, a certain amount to get to this 40%, right? My question
okay.
is, how do we know that it started at 100 and 0, or that it started at, why couldn't it have started at 80 or 20 or whatever the case may be? Like, are we assuming that
Okay.
all of them started at 100 and 0? You see what I'm saying?
I guess I don't know how I can teach it to you at the moment, but basically what you do is you just substitute the numbers and you equal them to each other and you're able to solve for that specific variable and it gives you the variable. It's just an algebraic equation.
Okay.
I,
Well,
I, I don't know how to explain it further than that at the moment.
that's okay. So let's not even focus on young Earth creation, because I don't like to hang up on young Earth creation, because at the end of the day, what's more important to me is that you come to know Christ, right? And so if you think Christianity is true, you don't have to believe in young Earth creation. You could take any of the views on Genesis that we see today, theistic evolution or evolutionary creation. They believe in the same thing as conventional paradigm, and then like an old Earth creation or somewhere in between. That is not necessary for salvation. So, I remember we had talked last time. You had an issue with like scientific evidence for God. That was like something that you were interested in seeing that you feel you don't see, right?
Correct.
Okay. And I told you that it's like the wrong tool to use to look for God per se, because if God exists, as a metaphysical essence, right? And when we use the term God, when I use the term God, I'm actually describing a nature, not a person. But this is just colloquial language that we're used to. So if it's metaphysical, we can't use
So
science to detect
could you
the
define God?
essence per se.
Maybe I'm not understanding. Could you define God? I don't remember how you defined it.
I could say like the greatest possible being, or the foundational essence, or something like that. Greatest possible nature, something like that.
Okay. How would you detect that essence?
So we could use, like, for example, like I discussed before, when evaluating your worldview to determine answers, like for big questions, why does the universe exist? Why do we exist? Why are there such thing as good and evil? Do we think there's such thing as good and evil? These types of things. And then we ask those questions and try to see what the best explanation is through things like abduction, which is inference to the best explanation, through induction or even deduction. These are like rules of, or methods of reasoning, and making philosophical arguments, deductive arguments, inductive and abductive arguments. And this is using reason and rationality, right, in order to come to the best conclusion for whatever question we're asking. And so if we ask questions like, what's the best explanation for a life permitting universe? What's the best explanation for morally capable beings? Things like that. I would say theism is a better explanation than any atheistic or naturalistic hypothesis. And so that would
I
be
would
evidence for God's existence.
I would have to push back and have you explain how uh, any theistic argument can pass the scientific method to be an explanation, because so far our tools to understand the natural world around us continue to be science.
Yeah, well, that would be expected under theism. There's nothing incompatible with theism and science. This is
Okay.
this is like
Are you just arguing for general theism, or are you arguing for the Christian God?
well, I start with arguing for theism. This is what I think is the most. This is what is convincing to me, and it's what's persuasive to me. I think that if there was no good reason to believe that theism is true, it would be a lot harder to swallow Christianity. Christianity involves a lot of miraculous claims. And if theism is true, we would expect miraculous claims to be true to a certain extent. Whereas if there's
Okay,
no
so
God, if there's no supernatural, the prior probability of supernatural things happening becomes a lot less.
so somehow you have to get me to theism first. Maybe it's not registering in my head at the moment.
Sure,
Okay.
sure. So why would we expect? So, and we went over this before, and we kind of went. So let's try to take this from another angle. Do you think that moral values, and like, do you think there's such thing as moral facts?
Morals are subjective.
Okay, you think morals are subjective. Okay. Do you think that we have, like, for example, do you think that non-human animals have moral values and duties?
Yes, they have morals.
Okay.
Yes, definitely they have morals.
So if, let's say, a dog is to unalive a child, right? The dog feels that the child is a threat, even though the child isn't a threat, and unalives the child because the dog is just not intelligent enough to realize this child is not a threat. Let's say the child goes near their food and the dog goes crazy and unalives them. Is that dog immoral?
I would say yes. The
Oh,
dog is immoral for causing unnecessarily unalivement.
okay. Do you think the dog knew better?
It depends on which dog. I mean, to be fair, there's humans have trained dogs to unalive other people, so
That's true.
maybe not.
That's true.
Uh,
Do you think they
Also
have
depends on.
the cognitive faculties to reason and realize that they've done something wrong? And when I mean wrong, I don't mean something that makes their owner upset. I mean something that's morally wrong.
I would say it's subjective to the dog. Just like not every human is
Hmm.
going to agree with you that unaliving babies is wrong, not every dog is going to agree or have the cognitive ability to say, you know, unaliving human baby is wrong.
Okay.
So
So
it's
I
subjected to that dog.
I think that the existence of said things, because the naturalism claim is going to say that we developed over time through our survival instinct, natural selection, and genetic mutation. Right? We want to survive, and our will to survive, same for every species that's alive today. That's what helps them survive today. Do you think that that drove us to our moral faculties?
Forrest Valka actually has a video about this, explaining that morals have been part of our evolutionary history. When humans learned, or actually, I'm not even sure how far, but when I want to say apes learned that cooperating with each other was beneficial to the survival of their tribe, uh, morals started to evolve alongside, and we necessarily, at that time, necessarily they unalived whatever member of the tribe that didn't follow the morality that they had. Kind of like the way we do it today. We we unalive whoever doesn't comport to our uh, justice system. We either incarcerate them or unalive them. So that really hasn't changed.
Okay. So I would argue that animals don't do that. And I think it's pretty simple to show. Like, for example, we still see examples today of like lions. The male lions will eat the cubs. Like, this still happens. And lions have been around for quite some time now, and they're still doing this. Like, this is not conducive to their survivability, nor would this be considered moral in any predicament. Unless maybe like there was a massive group of baby lions that were just viciously attacking all the adult lions and somehow overpowering them. But you see how like that's an absurd situation we'd have to try to bring up to flip this over, right? So what I'm saying is, I don't think that the dog in the instance I said earlier is immoral, is evil for what they did something evil. I think the dog just did something what its limited faculties allow them to do. Right, the dog has survival instincts that are going to overpower any form of cognitive faculties, of rational faculties. Can you still see me? Did I lose you? Uh-oh. You still there? What just happened? Try to request back up, bud. No. Oh, gotta love it. Okay, here we go. Not sure what just happened there. My computer just went
You
bonkers.
just show the green screen. I don't know what happened.
That's all right. My computer just went bonkers for a second. Okay, so like what I was saying, animals seem to me to be non-moral creatures because they do things that we would find grotesque. As beings who have these moral faculties, that animals they won't go beyond their instinct in a sense like
Do you
that.
realize that humans are animals, though?
So we could just say non-human animals, but there's
Okay.
clearly a very distinct difference between the cognitive faculties of an animal as opposed to a non-human animal versus a human. Would you
I'm pretty
disagree with that?
sure Gutsick Gibbon talks about how other primates exhibit empathy and compassion, fairness. Forrest Valkas has also spoken about that in plenty of episodes
Right, but
on the line.
empathy doesn't necessarily mean good. So that empathy is assuming like some moral standard that it is good to be empathetic, right?
Okay.
Knowing it's like even a child, when you catch a child with his hand in the cookie jar, the first thing the child says is, "Well, I didn't know any better." Why would you say that? Why? Because you know, if you did know better, that's actually indicting you. That means you have this moral responsibility to not put your hand in the cookie jar that you're trying to avoid, but you've been caught. And
Okay.
so the first thing you do is, oh, I didn't know any better. Animals don't do that. They don't say, I don't know any better.
Do
They
you think
can't
that they
say that.
exhibit a system of fairness, though?
A system of what?
Of fairness, like for example, If I have a box of pizza and you're hungry,
Hmm.
and I decide, hey, you know what? Here, have some pizza too. Do you think other primates exhibit that behavior?
Of fairness, I
Yeah,
think
like system of
they
fairness.
may do so to people that they care about. But animals
Okay.
would, like, for example, like their owner, like my dog. Maybe now my dog, she eats everything, but I've seen videos of like animals bringing their owners, like a rat or something, like some sort of what they would see to be food.
Yeah.
What's up, Coco? That would be more of like a respect for the owner from like a pack mentality, like the way animals communicate with one another. I wouldn't say that that animal is being morally good in that sense because, again, I'm not going to judge the animal as being morally evil if they do something wrong because I think they don't know any better. They're innocent morally. They're amoral, if I were to say.
Do you think animals exhibit some form of altruism?
You could argue that, but the problem with you could say that they exhibit altruism, but it's very hard to prove that because you'd have to, like for humans, we can ask them, "Were you being questions to determine whether they're being altruistic or not?" But with animals, you can't do that. So
I would I would say that that's a given. And Forrest Vaca, I disagree on those points.
well, they can disagree with that, but this is where, and this again, this is because they're more on the science side of things and they're not really into the philosophy side of things. So, ethics is a philosophical field, it's not a scientific field. So, you will not find any scientists who say, hey, we can prove something that's morally permissible through science. No, that's definitely a field of philosophy, and it has been for thousands of years. So the whole point of me bringing this up, right? We're going on a tangent about animals. What my point is that there's a clear distinction between human beings and non-human being animals. I just say humans and animals for simplicity's sake here. I know taxonomically we're considered animals.
Hmm.
What is the best explanation for that distinction? That we were intentionally created this way, that we have these faculties because we were meant to have these faculties, or that it happened by chance. Because
I
now what you have is one species amongst every other species that's ever existed that has this type of cognitive faculties. And when I
I
say species, I mean Homo sapien.
I would say that other primates do still share those same faculties. I can pull up Frank de Waals. I believe he's the primatologist that explains a little bit about those uh, features that other primates exhibit, that exhibit such as moral behaviors. They're just not just a moral construct. Um, I believe Oblivion has also spoken that even other non-human animals exhibit some level of even religion as well. It's not just unique to humans.
So, like, we could like speculate that this is possibly the case, but can you really take the claim seriously that any animal outside of our species has the moral faculties, has the rational faculties similar to ours to have these moral judgments?
Yes, they can. I would say that they can.
So I would say
I
that.
may not have the DOI numbers right now to show you, but if I do a little bit of research, I can get back to you and present you studies that actually support my position.
Okay,
I
so
wasn't ready for that right now.
at the moment, let's answer the question though. What
Hmm.
is a better explanation? Having a god or a being, right, that wants humans to have these faculties so they can do good. That's literally why he created them the way they are, so they can be free and choose to do good, as opposed to them just happening by chance.
Why does it have to be by chance? Why can it just be? Uh,
There's no guiding force, so it by
yeah,
definition is by
but it's not.
chance.
It's not that it's a guiding force. It's just how do you call it? Um, what's the word? Is just the tip of my tongue. It's just a product of evolution. That's what it is.
Right, but is evolution like guided in any way? Is there like some
No,
force? Right, it's random. There is.
no, it's
It's
not that it's random. It's that it works as a lottery system, and it takes the features that work, or basically throw stuff at the wall, see what sticks. And morality is one of those aspects, one of those traits that stuck because they're beneficial for the survival of the organism.
survival doesn't lead to morality though.
It does if they cooperate with each other.
Sharks have lived way longer than Homo sapiens, and they still forcibly copulate with one another. I'm pretty sure that would not be okay. We would all agree that that's immoral, for humans to do that. So I would say it would be a hard argument to make if species that have lived way longer and survived far longer than we have, through this supposed mean, right? Merely natural selection, genetic mutation, or essentially, like you said, throwing spaghetti, seeing if it sticks on the wall, throwing something sticks at the wall, and sticking at the wall means survives. But we are pretty new on the Earth compared to the remaining species.
Okay. I would have to research about sharks having a moral system,
Mm-hmm.
but based on just some of the videos that I've seen, tiger sharks are able to exhibit a system of morality. They behave like dogs, like
Um,
towards humans.
say that again.
Based on some of the videos I've seen, sharks actually behave more like dogs towards humans. Like when you're in the ocean, tiger sharks tend to behave like if they were just a giant dog, an
Right, but
ocean
this doesn't
dog.
change the fact that they forcibly copulate.
Okay.
I-
That
I'm
doesn't
just
mean
I'm
that they
just
don't
saying
have
like
a system of
that's
morality either.
I wouldn't say now I don't think sharks are immoral. I think they're just animals that are incapable of making moral decisions because they're not rational. They're animals. They don't go beyond their instinct. They can learn things, but they will never have the cognitive faculties to actually choose between something that's good and evil. And then
I would be careful by saying they would never have the cognitive faculties because you are assuming that you know what evolutionary path sharks would be
okay, so we
taking.
we could say I guess it's logically possible that in several million years from now, sharks could become cognitive, like creatures like we are. I guess it's logically possible, but we have no evidence to show that they will.
I well, how are you defining cognitive abilities?
Being able to use mechanisms like reason,
Sharks can do that.
abduction. What would you
Yes,
say?
sharks can do that. Sharks can actually do that.
So sharks cannot do that.
Sharks have cognitive abilities.
They have yes, they have cognitive abilities, but they cannot use reason. They
I would say
use their
reason is part of a
instincts
cognitive
guide
ability.
their instincts are going to guide their actions, not reason. They're not using deduction or abductive reasoning in their head and oh, well if I do this will happen, if I do this will happen. They're doing I smell this, I want to eat that. This is scary, I'm going to run away from that. That's about the extent to what sharks and then they have their own communication methods. I'm not going to deny that. But what I'm saying is like compared to a human, it's not even like it's not even close.
I mean, yes, compared to a human, of course, but they can figure out, hey, maybe should I go over there or not? Is that too dangerous or not? That is cognitive abilities.
But
That is type of reasoning.
this is based, but that and that's another thing too. Their cognitive faculties are not based off of truth telling. So let's give an example, right? House cats. If you're a house cat, right, and you see a bush shaking, it's very likely you're going to run away from that bush because you're not sure if there's a threat in that bush. Your instinct to survive is going to kick in, and you're going to run away, right? House cats are very skittish.
Okay.
Whereas that's not necessarily true that because this bush is shaking, you're in danger. Like it could just be
I would say
wind.
that humans adopted that same instinct.
Humans would have the rational faculties to examine the situation and see, oh, it's a bush shaking. Why is the bush shaking? It's a totally different ball game. Their humans' cognitive faculties give us the ability to tell the truth tell, as opposed to cats, which is just to survive. And that's a massive difference. Again, we're the only species that has this type of cognitive faculty, and that this goes back to the question: where is this more expected under theism or atheism?
Um, I feel like I don't agree with you that humans are just like at the very, very top tip of the cognitive reasoning that you portray. I would say that other
What animal
primates,
has more advanced cognitive faculties than we do?
not saying that advanced, but they're pretty close. Have you seen a chimpanzee change car brakes?
change car brakes?
Yes.
No, I haven't seen them do that. Who taught the chimpanzee to do that?
A human taught that.
Did the chimpanzee like willingly do so, or was it a struggle with multiple people involved that had to get the chimpanzee to do it?
It was just one person that taught the chimpanzee how to do car brakes.
No, I haven't seen that. Now, changing car brakes is not that hard, but I still find that pretty wild that a chimpanzee did that. But
What
I
about
imagine,
the ragged 10 driving a golf cart?
I mean, that's not that difficult. You just press the pedal and you're driving. How they drove, I don't know. But these would be two instances of, like something that's outrageous. But this is nowhere near what human beings are capable of.
Have you seen the way that I want to say, other monkey species are able to solve, like, for example, color problems? I believe one of the videos I've seen from, what's his name? Neil Shubin shows that some of these monkeys solve problems a little bit faster than us.
What problems?
Like, for example, memory problems, color problems.
Okay.
Like, they're able to solve it so much faster than your average human.
Okay. So these memory problems and color problems. Give me an example of these problems.
I would just probably reference you Neil Shubin's Your Inner Monkey. I
Okay.
guess would be probably the second video. I don't remember exactly doubts.
Okay.
Your Inner Monkey.
Here, let me look that up because I'd like to look that up. That's interesting to me. But let's get back to the question though.
Okay.
Why would we expect such difference, like these beings, humans like us, under a naturalistic hypothesis as opposed to a theistic one? Give me a reason. How can we increase that prior?
I mean, let me write that down. Maybe I'm not registering. Why would we expect? Say it again.
To have an advanced species such as humans that are unique in the field of species under naturalism or atheism as opposed to theism.
Okay. I guess first thing that I would see is that this is uh, just what we explained with the theory of evolution. We explained it in our naturalism. We don't need to
But that's
use
compatible with
theism to
theism.
explain any of that. How any of that
That's
works.
compatible with theism, and it's actually more expected under theism because we would expect a god that would have the ability to create us with the capability, with the mechanisms already there for us to evolve over time. Whereas under
But
naturalism,
theism, though, is an unfalsifiable proposition. There's no way that I can
sure you
test
can.
that because I
Sure you
cannot
can.
access a universe where I could be sure, okay, this is a universe that is just naturalistic, and then this is a universe that is ruled by a god. I
So
cannot do that to test it out.
you can. What you can do is you can show a more probable hypothesis.
Yes, but probability implies a fraction. How do I calculate the numerator and denominator?
You don't have to do that. This isn't frequentism. So what you can't now, you can, if you want to be super linear about it, all you're doing is you're going to add an explanation. You're going to add a better explanation or more explanations that would increase the probability of theism over atheism, or I'm sorry, atheism or naturalism over theism.
I mean, the fact that we can explain everything in naturalism shows that naturalism would be the better explanation than theism, because theism offers nothing. I don't see anything that I don't see where theism will be able to explain it, and we were able to falsify it, test it.
Okay.
Maybe that's not registering with me at the moment.
It's what I call a Bayesian argument. It is a Bayesian argument. It's using Bayes' theorem in order to do your calculation. Right? If you look up Bayes' theorem, you'll see it's got P and then P over A. I can't remember the exact formula off the top of my head. I have it on my notes here. But essentially, The P in the beginning is the prior, right? And so you would
Mm-hmm.
have two of these Bayesian equations, and each hypothesis you would create for one for each, one for theism, one for atheism. And then what you're going to do is you're just going to add reasons that are reasonable or sufficient with your interlocutor to increase that prior probability, whatever you may find for atheism or naturalism. At the moment, all I've heard is either appealing to a brute fact or appealing to chance, which is not an explanation.
How am I appealing to chance?
Well, you haven't made it. You haven't given a reason yet. You haven't decided yet. I'm just saying that's all I've heard from folks that I've spoken to. I've done lots of
Okay.
research. That's why I find this argument to be so persuasive, because I haven't heard any good rebuttals to it. The best rebuttal I've heard against this argument would be from Danny, who's very popular on TikTok. He and I have
Danny
talked about
Phil Talk.
this. Right.
Okay.
Right, and his objection actually has nothing to do. He accepts that there's no good explanations to increase the prior under atheism. He just thinks that the priors can't be increased on theism, and he says that free will is not a good, and so that doesn't give God a reason to create creatures with this moral freedom, because freedom is not a good. Freedom actually leads to evil. That's the argument that he runs with. And that, to me, that's been the most powerful objection so far. I don't agree with it. I think I can overcome that, but that would be the best argument I've heard so far.
I mean, the only thing I could tell you is that, in order for theism to be an explanation, it needs to pass the scientific method. And I don't think you're going to agree with that at the moment.
Well, science is not the only way to truth, my friend. It's not.
Do you think science is our best methodology, though?
It's one of them, yeah.
Okay. Do
We
you
certainly
think
should continue to use it.
supernaturalism is? Do you think supernaturalism is somehow an explanation or a tool?
It's not a tool. Supernaturalism it would be, or theism would be a worldview.
Okay.
So it's
So
not.
that's
That's
what
not
I'm
a
seeing. Is
tool
like, for
for
example,
obtaining knowledge.
oh, wait. You said you know how to change car brakes, right?
I do.
You're mechanically inclined, right?
Sure.
Okay. So basically, what you're trying to let me know is I have this tool called theism that somehow does everything that the other tools do, but I don't feel like you're able to explain how this tool does that.
I see. I see what you're saying. I could give you every explanation that you would provide. Oh, my computer's doing it again.
I'm still here. I'm still here.
Okay,
I'm still
cool,
here.
cool, good. Every explanation that you would provide for naturalism is also compatible with theism. And so basically, I could say that under this theistic hypothesis, God created a world in which we can use science to discover all of the physical truths of the world. And that's perfectly fine. It's perfectly compatible with naturalism or theism. Now, what you could say is, well, now we're just adding something that's not necessary. We don't need theism at that point. And so then we start to go to questions that are beyond the obvious physical truths of the world. So things like, well, why does the world exist? And I think right there, atheism, naturalism loses, because it doesn't explain that very well. I don't think it explains the beginning of the universe very well, or the explanation, even if you want to say the universe is eternal, I think it's still better explained under theism. Consciousness, something that I don't think is well explained under any form of physicalist argument, let alone materialist or anything of that sort, naturalist argument. I think those explanations are not sufficient. So again, theism is going to win for consciousness, for moral values, even if they're subjective. Like, these things are not conducive necessarily to survival, especially because moral values, like, most people would agree that being virtuous is morally good. Being something like self-sacrifice is a high good. No matter what your view on ethics is, most people would agree with that. And so, if that's the case, that why do we have that? Why would we expect that under naturalism? the best you can say, again, we're going to appeal to chance. So all these things I've named, and there's more too, those are better explained under theism than they are under naturalism.
Okay, I'm still not seeing it though. For example, I mean, I'm just gonna be a little bit pedantic. We're gonna assume we're working on disc brakes, right? Um, I have
Disc
the
brakes. You got old car, man.
well, it's either disc brakes or drum brakes. What other brakes are there?
Oh, I'm sorry. I was thinking of drum brakes. Drum brakes are the old brakes. Yeah. Disc brakes are the new brakes.
Oh, we'll go with drum brakes because they're older. You
Okay.
have the spring retainer. You have the pliers to pull the spring back and put it into place. Um, Maybe you need a flare nuts wrench. Uh, what else? The little pump to bleed the brakes. And you're telling me, you know what? I have another tool, which in this case, science is the one that represents the tools I just mentioned. You're telling me I have another tool that somehow magically changes your brakes without using these tools.
No,
I don't
this isn't
know.
analogous.
Hmm. I'm
This
not
is where
nothing.
our disconnect is.
Okay.
You have to accept that there are things that science cannot answer. You have to accept that. Science is limited in what it can answer. We
I
have to
agree that
step into the
science is
realm of
limited.
philosophy.
Yes, I agree that
Okay.
science is limited, but religion offers zero answers.
And also, don't Google it's right. You don't bleed drum brakes. You bleed disc brakes. If
Well, it
you have too
depends
much
how
brake fluid.
much. If you brought that wheel
If yeah,
cylinder, you definitely need to.
or if you put too much brake fluid in. But
Maybe.
anyways, look at us getting all car-y here. It's funny. I just did my water pump and timing belt and all that stuff, and that was a long time. So it's funny you talk about car stuff. But anyways, when we step into the realm of philosophy, that's where we get into philosophy of religion. That is where you get into looking for explanations outside of science, obviously, because it's philosophy. Because science, in order to do science, you must presuppose some form of philosophy. So, and I've actually been trying my hardest to be very not crazy about getting into metaphysics and stuff, because I think there are other problems too that we could address, but we don't need to get there right now. We can start looking for explanations through reason, and it's not unless we can find an inherent contradiction or explicit contradiction in a theistic hypothesis. There's no reason to disregard it, other than I don't see like any reason you're going to give is going to be fallacious. So then that's why we just have to weigh between the two and ask the big questions. We
Okay,
can't
so I
use
guess
science
my
here.
thing is that I cannot just prove a general deistic God.
You
I
could.
cannot. There's no. I don't think anybody can.
You
But I
could.
could
Well, when
disprove.
you say prove, what do you mean?
For example, the deistic gods that the founding fathers of the United States believe is just a God that started the process but doesn't interact with the world at all anymore. Just started evolution and just stepped back and didn't do anything. That's the type of God that
Okay.
deists believe, or at least that's the
No,
way I remember.
I know
There's
what
no way I can remember that. There's no way I can prove or disprove that God.
but I'm asking when you say prove, what do you mean? Are you saying prove with certainty that this hypothesis is true? Because and I'm saying
You, s-
hypothesis on purpose. Like we're not going to get past a hypothesis. We're going to stay at a hypothesis. We'll never be able to get to a theory because we cannot test it with the scientific method. That's why I
I would
keep
say
saying
just use
hypothesis.
evidence to present somehow that this deistic God exists.
You
And I
could.
think by
Many people do
definition,
that. Many people do that. That's
I,
why there are deists. I think they're wrong, but they do it. Aristotle was
isn't it by
essentially a deist.
definition that this God is not detectable?
No, deism.
Okay.
Deism isn't necessarily that God is undetectable. It could just be that like deism is all it means is a God that created the world and isn't involved, like just turned around and you guys do your thing.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean we can't detect, because otherwise, like this hypothesis of deism, like we could to come up with it at all would be somebody thought about this possible hypothesis. That's a method. It's some form of detection. Doesn't mean it's right, but if deism were true, and somebody were to come up with that hypothesis, I mean, we could totally have a way to discover, oh, well, because of this, that, and the third, we actually have better reason to believe in deism than theism or atheism or whatever. Like it's
I would
detectable.
say I would say that deism would be much more probable than, like, for example, a Christian God. Just a God that started the process and just didn't care about anything else.
You could say that. I think deism is more probable than naturalism or atheism for sure. But I think
Uh, I would say that about that specific statement, uh, no, I would say there's no way for me to actually investigate that further.
there is. That's what philosophy of religion is, man. That's what it is. It's an entire field of study dedicated to this. There are thousands of papers written back and forth against different positions in philosophy of religion about who's right and who's wrong and whose arguments are bad and good. And I mean, thousands of pages on this. Like what you have to say by saying there's no way to go any further, you'd have to say, oh, these guys are all crazy. And I know you don't think that.
I mean, you could just believe in a God that's not undetectable by any means. I mean,
You
isn't that what the
could.
definition of an agnostic is? That they believe that the question about God can neither be proven or disproven.
Well, yeah, there are agnostics who think that, yes.
Okay.
Agnostic just means you don't take a position on the like if someone asks the question, does God exist? You say, I don't know. The
Okay.
atheist says no. The theist says yes. The
Okay.
deist says yes too.
So, I mean, yeah, deistic God, I don't feel like I can prove or disprove that, but um, under naturalism, though, one of the problems that I see is that if, well, I'm not sure where to go from here, because if you're believing in the Christian God, gives some sort of special place for humans, and so far what we see from this world is that, or this universe is a factory for black holes, not a factory for humans, because out of this entire universe, we only know of one specific planet that is suitable for life for humans, and on that planet, a very small portion of it is suitable for life.
Right. So
So,
yeah, you could say you could go with that argument for sure. That's an argument you can run with, and you, my friend, would be then contending in philosophy of religion. You would not be using science.
I just use science, though.
No, no, no. What you've done is you've taken data that we've gotten from scientists. You're not using science. So black holes, right? You're taking that, and then you're using a philosophical argument against theism in order using this data that you have. You're making a philosophical attack against theism. That's what you're doing, which is okay. You can do that. That's engaging in philosophy of religion. There's nothing wrong with that. And you didn't have to use science. You can use data that we got from scientists to do that. But that's how you engage in philosophy of religion. So then we ask the question, what makes more sense? If black holes exist, would we predict that more so under theism or atheism? You could run that argument. You could make that argument. I'd be
Well,
willing to
it's
contend.
it's a bit strange, though, because just general theism. I feel like I would not be able to investigate that, because even for general theism, is it just one God or many gods? And we have to then choose, like what I said, is it the Christian God, the pagans gods, uh,
Yeah, well, I
Hinduistic
think I
gods,
could
and
knock that out real quick. Do you think
okay,
that Occam's razor is a valid mechanism of helping us find truth? Like that's a rule we should imply most times?
yes,
Okay.
yes.
Is one God with the necessary attributes to be responsible for reality, or multiple gods with the necessary attributes to be responsible for reality? Which one is, between those two, which one is simpler?
Well, the one that's simpler would be the one God, but just because I choose the one God, that doesn't mean
Right.
that there aren't gods, though.
Well, what I'm just saying is
Yeah.
we can with Occam's razor, or with the principle of parsimony, however you want to call it. Philosophers call it principle of parsimony. Scientists call it Occam's razor. We can literally eliminate polytheism because it's just way more complex of a hypothesis that we don't need to explain the same thing theism does.
Okay.
Right? So now we've narrowed, so we don't have to worry about that anymore. You seem to have some anxiety about that, but we just eliminated it. So now let's go to deism versus theism. Okay? So
Wait, what's the difference between deism and theism? I thought it's
so
the same thing.
theism is like a god that's a conscious agent that would be involved, that would have like some sort of role in the universe, interacting somehow. Whereas deism, it's the opposite. God creates and just turns around, never participates again.
Okay.
Like kind of just backs off and lets the universe do its thing. Okay,
Okay.
so let's look at that. How would we determine which hypothesis is better? So would we expect life on a theistic hypothesis or a deistic hypothesis more so?
I don't know how to answer that.
Well, just think, if God is not concerned with being involved in the universe, why would he care if the universe was life permitting?
He wouldn't.
Right. Whereas under theism, a God who would be involved in the universe would want something to be involved with, to interact with. We could see a motivation there, and that life could be us, could be aliens, whatever.
I don't necessarily accept that. Why
Why
would a
not?
theistic God want life?
Well, I'm saying something to interact with. If God is going to go out of his way, and I'm saying he here just as a colloquial term here. Obviously, I think God is a Father, Son, Holy Spirit, but that's a different ballgame. But what I'm saying is, as a theistic God who would be interactive with the universe, would want to interact more so, I think it would be a good thing, and God would want to interact with other beings as opposed to no life, not interact with any beings. Theism, they don't care, right? But with
I
theism, if we come up with a specific model, like the theistic model I run with, which is classical theism, minus divine simplicity, that would give a good God, right? God that is goodness. And then God, if God is good, right? God would want to create beings that are also good.
I feel like we're going a little bit too fast because I'm not sure how we would be able to investigate that a theistic God would want to interact with other beings. How do we know it's just not like, for example,
Well, here's the remember, the condition we're facing is a life permitting universe, and we're offering two hypotheses, weighing them, which one better explains this. So we already have the life permitting universe, so now let's go back and see which of the two hypotheses better explains it. We've already determined there's no reason to expect a life permitting universe under deism, because a deistic God does not have a
well, it's
reason
not that
to
we
create.
wouldn't expect it. It's just that he would start it and not care if there's life or not. It
Right.
could happen.
So the fact that our universe is life permitting would not have been necessarily an intention of this deistic God. It may have also been by chance. The only helping factor is that the universe was created by this deistic God, whereas a theistic God would have a potential motivation to create a life permitting universe.
I don't. I think we're gonna bump heads there. I'm not sure how we
What
can say a theistic God is gonna want friends automatically.
Well, we don't have to say going to. We just say they could. We have reason to believe under some theistic model that this is going to offer more explanatory power. This theistic model is compatible with being motivated in some fashion or another that life is going to be permitted. Whereas deism, there's no explanation. There's no reason to expect life to be permitted outside of pure chance. He just happened to snap the cosmological constant into this rate, into this cosmological, in these Planck units, and that allows it to be where it is. And that eventually led to life. That's the best you can offer. Whereas theism, we could say that God wanted that to happen because they wanted life. If they're going to interact with the universe, they have reasons to do certain things. They can have reasons to do certain things.
I'm not.
We're writing it off from the beginning with deism.
I'm not sure if I can grant that at all.
Okay.
I would need to get back to you. But I feel like,
That's okay. These are things I want you to think about, man.
yeah, it's the problem is that if a theistic God exists, why would it necessarily want friends to hang out with? How do we know how that specific theistic God thinks? I don't feel like we can investigate that. That's just not something that I can wrap my head around that at the moment.
Right. So this is going to be, if we're going to go and now challenge the model of theism, because right now we're just challenging theism versus deism. So if we can accept that theism is going to be a better explanation than deism, now we move to different theistic hypotheses. And we look at, is there a hypothesis under theism at which we can provide such an explanation, or do they all fail? Because there are many that fail, including hypotheses I used to adhere to when I first started studying philosophy of religion and getting into apologetics. I am I don't want to say embarrassed, but I guess kind of embarrassed at some of the stupid views I used to have. So, and I even like have some of those old videos up just so that way I can look at them and be like, oh, I used to say that. But I remember, and I learned and moved from there because I've used reason. I've looked at both sides of the Eastern Fathers argument, of the Western Christian arguments, of the Muslim arguments, of the different types, models of theism arguments, even the polytheistic arguments. And that's how I've been able to come to the conclusion I am today, is by using reason and understanding, inference to the best explanation, other mechanisms like this to come to said conclusion. And you can do the same thing. We've been doing that this whole time. That's what we've been doing. We've knocked out polytheism. We've knocked out deism. Now we're looking at theism and trying to figure out how we can make that work. We're doing it, man.
Yes, but I feel like we're not going to be able to make that work. Like we have.
I think we can. Listen, I actually have to get off here. I couldn't stay alive for a long time because my wife and I are going to go watch Hunter x Hunter. We just got into that anime, and we really like it. So, and I've canceled my Netflix, so we only have like 20 days to finish it. See if it's possible to binge it in 20 days. Have you ever seen that show?
No. I was going to ask you, though, like,
Okay.
you said your name was Adam last time.
Yeah.
And that you spoke with Gutsick Gibbon and
Yes.
Forrest Valkyrie.
Yes.
Do you remember more or less what they...
The Bayesian argument that I ran, that I talked about with you, I ran the same one against them.
Okay. Was it on Skeptalk? Monday?
No, this was like 6 months ago, maybe longer.
No, like, was it a Monday? Because usually on Monday they talk to, like, people to, like, 6 to 8 hours.
I mean, I know it was on the line, but they do the different...
Yeah, Skeptalk is, like, the scientist one. Like,
It was probably Skeptalk then.
okay. All right. Well, more or less how many months? 3, 4, 5?
No, like
Year?
6. It was
6
a while
months.
ago. And I just didn't... I have it recorded on my computer. I just never posted it. I did the same thing with Matt Dillahunty. You can see it on my YouTube channel.
Matt Dillahunty, though, has a temper.
He does, and that's why he kicked me. But the other two, we were able to talk for a little while. They started to get a little edgy with me towards the end, but we got through somewhat of a conversation. I actually made a mistake in that conversation towards the end. I was trying to be as cordial as possible, and essentially we were talking past each other. Again, they're not philosophy folk, they're science folk. I'm more of a philosophy guy. And so they kept making inferences on how God could give us this free will, but do everything that's good, right? And so there's this whole thing, and you'll see if you watch it. So it's an hour or longer.
What state did you mention in the line? That matters too.
What did I mention?
What state did you mention on the line? Because,
Oh,
like, for example,
North
when I call,
Carolina.
I say
North
it's Gabe from
Carolina.
Texas. North Carolina. Okay. All right. Hopefully
All
I
right,
can find
man.
him.
Thanks for joining. I appreciate you coming back. That means a lot to me, and I appreciate you sticking around with the conversation. Like I said, we just did philosophy of religion, man. That's awesome.
Okay.
And I hope to see you back, and we'll continue. All right?
Thank you. Have a
All right, buddy. Have a good
Good
night.
night.
All right, folks. I know I got a bunch of guests here. This was a short night. Tomorrow I'll be back up. I'll try to get on earlier, and I'll be able to stay on a little bit later. So YH, Very Muslim, Kalmikak, Lucas D3103, Car Tray 5. All you guys, if you want, message me so I remember. And tomorrow, if you come up, I'll probably get on around 8 Eastern time. I'll bring you guys up. You guys get priority. But anyways, thank you guys all for the love, the hate, the in-between. I appreciate it. I'll be back up tomorrow, like I said, and looking forward to some more great conversations. Other than that, have a wonderful evening, folks. Bye now.